Alright, this video centers around the Archon War in Mondstadt and the fight between Andrius, Decarabian, the eventual rebellion against Decarabian, and the events 2600 years ago that eventually would lead to the establishment of what's not actually called New Mondstadt, but I'm going to refer to as New Mondstadt for clarity purposes throughout this video. That being said, let's just get a few things out of the way first. So, in terms of timeline placement, the rebellion takes place 2600 years ago, but we don't actually have information on when the Archon War started in general, nor do we have a timeline on when the Archon War in Mondstadt specifically started. There's also probably, I'm going to make my best attempt to cite sources here as we go throughout this video, but I can't promise perfect accuracy, considering that there are a lot of sources for this video, because there are many sources about the Mondstadt Archon War, all stating the exact same things, or even contradictory things, and not giving us any real new info. Sorry, I'm a little bit upset about this matter. But, in any case, let's get to it. So first off, we have a few important deities here, some divine players, if you will. We have Andrius, who everybody knows. He's the nice, sort of nice wolf over in Wolvendom. You fight his spirit, blah 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 blah, training, Razor's dad, etc. But 2600 years ago, he was engaged in a war with another god named Decarabian. And as a result of this war, he was causing significant blizzards all throughout Mondstadt, making the vast majority of Mondstadt unlivable, except for Old Mondstadt, which we can see over here, which is now currently called Storm Terror's Lair. That being said, at the time, it was known as simply Mondstadt rather than Old Mondstadt, and it was ruled over by by Decarabian. This is Decarabian's tower. It's a very lovely place. I don't really see where you would live, but we imagine it's a very lovely place. Decarabian was the Lord of the Winds, Lord of the Tower, the God of Gales, the God of Storms, the God of many assorted names, although not as many as Zhongli, because nobody's outdone him on that front yet. Sorry, that was a little bit off topic there. In any case, Decarabian ruled over Old Mondstadt, and he protected it from Andrius's freezing blizzards by establishing wind walls around the city. However, many sources corroborate the fact that the people of the city were distinctly unhappy with this fact and viewed Decarabian as a tyrant who did not grant them personal freedom or any of those other nice, lovely things that, generally speaking, people enjoy having. So, nobody liked Decarabian. That being said, Decarabian himself, according to the Tile of Decarabian Weapon Ascension mats, believed that his people loved him and that he was such a great ruler. Well, okay, he was doing his best, but people didn't like his best. In any case, so he thought that everything was just fine and dandy, and he was protecting them from Andrius. It's worth noting for the record that the people of Old Mondstadt at the time also regarded Andrius as being just as bad as Decarabian, since he was making all of those nice, not really nice, blizzards outside. That being said, even with the blizzards in place, since some people decided, hey, isn't it better to, like, live in potential danger of being frozen to death than live under the terrible tyranny of Decarabian? They decided to go outside and rough it. So, I'm just going to mention them briefly here, but we have whoever established those, the shrine on the Eastern Cliff. That's from the Istroth video. If you haven't watched it, there's a little bit of mention in there about their worship and how they essentially got protection from the storm through worship of the Masters of Time and Anemo, which is also a complicated subject that is also discussed in that video. Enough shilling at my own videos for now. The other relevant players were here are the Gunhildr clan. Now, at the time, they're actually called the Gunhildr clan, because the daughter of their chief is named Gunhildr, and the clan would eventually get its name from her. So, the chief decides, aha, fellows, let's go rough it out there in the wild, where we could potentially die at any minute as a result of the terrible blizzards. But they go anyway. So it's worth noting here also that this is all written in Biography of Gunhildr, which is written by a modern-day historian of the Gunhildr clan, which puts its veracity and reliability into significant amounts of doubt, given that we can neither verify the majority of its contents through any other source, that the biographer has significant reason to potentially be biased in favor of depicting the Gunhildr clan in a positive light, and finally that, mainly that we had no other sources even corroborating Gunhildr's existence at the time. So, essentially, if you believe it, which it's probably mostly accurate, hopefully, we don't actually know where they got their info from. In any case, if you believe Biography of Gunhildr to be true, what happens is that they go out and they're not doing so hot. And then Gunhildr meets a wind spirit who helps protect the clan and gains power through the clan's worship of this wind spirit. It's worth noting that even though Venti was also a wind spirit, it's not ever actually stated in biography of Gunhildr, as far as I can tell, whether or not the wind spirit in question is in fact Barbatos, who would become who would become the Anemo Archon, and who we, the players, also know as Venti. Personally, I think they probably refer to the same thing. I think the implication of biography of Gunhildr is that they're the same, the wind spirit and Venti. But as far as I can tell, there's no explicit statement that, hey, this wind spirit would go on to become Barbatos. It also is a little bit tricky with the timeline of Venti trying to help out the Nameless Bard and all, which segues nicely into the next major player in this discussion, which was the Nameless Bard. So the Nameless Bard lived underneath Decarabian's control, had never seen blue skies or green grass or a bird, very tragic, had a dream of going out into the world and seeing these lovely blue skies and birds. He wanted to see the birds in flight, if I recall correctly. He's the one player in the Archon War besides Venti and Andrius that most people actually know, since he came up in Venti's story quest, Carmen Day. And he was that sad, sad fellow who died. In any case, he meets Venti, and Venti essentially agrees to help him out, and I believe, because the boy's dream is to see the nice world out there, see the birds in flight, and so they help out with the rebellion. Lots of other people are also greatly dissatisfied with the state of current affairs, including, but not limited to, one special, also nameless, red-haired knight. So the red-haired knight, first off, most probably, a member of, an ancestor of what would eventually become the Ragamunder clan, due to statements made in Windbloom Ode about some not really relevant stuff regarding darkness, dawn, more dawn parallels, the Ragamunder clan in general, and also due to suspiciously similar facial structure, hair color, and all those really lovely things. Let's see, where was I going with this? So the nameless red-haired knight also helps them out. He also does some shady stuff after Decarabian is killed, but that's not relevant at the moment. And then the fourth, but probably not final, it's again one of those really annoyingly contradictory areas, is Amos of Amos Bow, and a hunter, an archer, whatever you want to call her, and she is in fact lover to Decarabian. The reason being that she believes Decarabian loves her. She loves Decarabian. Unfortunately, he does not actually love her back. She ends up joining the rebellion. So these four brave souls, so that we have Venti, Amos, the red-haired knight, and the Nameless Bard, go to ascend Decarabian's tower. But wait, there's potentially a ghost with them. I say ghost. Let's get to this in a second. Alright, so first off, the primary source on this is, I believe, Amos Bow, which is the one that states that we have an elf, that's Venti, we have the bard, we have, the warrior, the red-haired warrior, and we have Amos herself all ascending the tower. But with the release of, it was either Song of Broken Pines or Freedom Sworn, it turned out that there was, in fact, a fifth member coming along with these people who was only referred to as the knight. We know it's not the nameless red-haired dude because he is named separately as the red-haired warrior, which is pretty clear, at least in my opinion. The leading theory at the moment is that this knight is actually Gunhildr, who did not previously appear in any other more reliable texts, despite being described in the biography of Gunhildr as having participated in the rebellion with the rest of the Gunhildr clan. That being said, there's no actual confirmation that this was Gunhildr herself, or really any info on who this mysterious nameless knight might have actually been. But in any case, they all go to ascend the tower together. They go up, and they manage to kill Decarabian. The exact details of how this occurs are kind of unknown, but we do know that Amos is killed by Decarabian's scales right as she shoots an arrow at him, which may or may not be what actually killed him in the end. We know that, let's see, what else? We know the Nameless Bard dies. According to the animation, he died with, an arrow in his chest, but that being said, that's probably not the most reliable since he was dead by the end of the fight with Decarabian, and having an arrow in his chest to presume somebody shot him, but nobody else that we know of ascended the tower, unless Decarabian had guards, but if that's the case, they're certainly not mentioned in anything we have as actually being in the tower, participating in the fight, etc. Anyway, Venti's also up there, Nameless Knight is up there, the red-haired warrior is up there, whatever. So Venti, after all of this, becomes a god. We know that for certain, and potentially becomes the Anemo Archon. This is one of those areas where, again, it's incredibly, annoyingly unclear on exactly how the Archons were chosen, when the Archons were chosen, if it's the end of the Archon War, during the Archon War, etc., and what exactly even qualifies one as an Archon in the first place. I have many gripes over this, but we're not going to get into those at the moment. Sorry, and then he takes on the form of the... Okay, he takes on the form of the Nameless Bard in homage to his tragically dead friend. So, at an unknown time after this, Andrius decides to give up on his dreams of becoming the Anemo Archon, believing that he's unfit to lead humanity, as he only has love for wanderers and orphans, according to his nice weapon ascension material set that I really hate farming for. Oh shoot, I forgot Shells was not funded. Okay, let's see, what else? Yes, alright. That being said, it's also worth noting that he also essentially gave his power to the land when he died, because he realized that his power was harming people and not helping them, and in general he thought he was not fit to be a good Archon because he did not love humanity in general. So, the creation of Mondstadt occurs. We have the founding clan of the Goonhilders, of course. We have the founding clan of the Ironlockers, actually, according to the sacrificial weapons set. That being said, they don't appear in any later literature, so there are theories that the Ironlockers became the Dragonmenders. Again, they're not really confirmed, certified, whatever you want to call it at the moment, but they exist, so I figured it was worth mentioning. Yes, the Ironlockers, and finally we have the Lawrences. So at this time, the Lawrences don't, well, okay, if they participate in the rebellion, which they probably did, they're not explicitly mentioned, but their leader, Venerer, we know lived 2,600 years ago because she helped Leonard all the way from 1.1, Unreconciled Stars, ascend to the top of Pylos Peak, and after Venti became a god and potentially the Anemo Archon, he reshaped Mondstadt and made it livable by, you know, getting rid of all the blizzards, making the weather nice, actually making it a nice place to live in general. And actually cutting the top of a Pylos Peak, which is today Musk Reef, where the Spiral Abyss is located. What exactly the implications might have are not really known, but it's also worth noting down. Let's see, so yes, and then also, an oath is sworn by the three leading clans of Mondstadt, the Ironlockers, the Lawrences, and the Goonhilders, that they are going to protect Mondstadt. And this can also be seen in the modern-day Goonhilder from Mondstadt. Oh, as always, oh, Jean, that's so nice of you to be right here demonstrating for me. Not that she says it, but pretend she said it. Yes, in any case, the original wording on the oath was actually significantly longer, and is also where we get the information that they hated Andrius from. Unfortunately, it was inscribed up next to the original statue of Barbatos, which was destroyed during the era of the aristocracy, and the exact wording of the oath was lost forever. How tragic. Many things from this time were actually lost forever, in fact, which brings me straight into the worship of Istaroth in Mondstadt following the Archon War. We know from sacrificial fragments for certain that worship of Istaroth occurred prior because they were praying to her for protection from the blizzards. That being said, the other sacrificial weapons, for example, sacrificial sword, also state that, for example, the Goonhilders, I believe, would enact ceremonies honoring the 1,000 winds of time. Or, actually, it's just stated as the winds of time, from what I recall. But the fact is, from the Byakuya Koko collection from, I think it's the Baptismal Bishop Study book, but it's one of the books. It stated that Istaroth, aka Tokyo Okami, aka the God of Time, is also known as the 1,000 Winds of Time in a very poetic form. So we know that, yes, they were indeed worshipping her. However, and they even had this really nice dance that went along with it. Very lovely. And yeah, and this is one of the places where we have yet more contradictory lore. We're getting there in a second. I realize it's jumping around. My distinct apologies for that. In any case, we also have the worship of Istaroth on the Eastern Cliff. And one of the things that is happening is this nice dance, known as, well, okay. And this dance involves, well, okay, sorry. We're getting a little bit off track here. I apologize for the lack of clarity in this discussion. That is definitely my fault. That being said, worship of Istaroth is eventually forgotten. The dance that goes along with it is purportedly forgotten. However, Eula dance is what she calls the Dance of Sacrifice, which fits very nicely with the name Sacrificial Weapons. It has 3 acts, just like the, you know, how, let's see. One of the weapons in the Sacrificial Weapons series describes the 3rd and final act of the dance that was devoted to Istaroth. And we also have the fact that it's a nice historical dance practiced by the 3 ancient clans of Mondstadt, just like Eula's Dance of Sacrifices, except for one key difference. Eula's Dance of Sacrifice is obviously practiced in the modern day because she knows it, while the Sacrificial Weapons dance is explicitly stated to be forgotten. Honestly, my best guess is that they just said Eula could dance, and they were like, oh, what's a nice lore explanation for this? Aha, waifu bait, without actually bothering to check whether or not this fit in with the established lore. But I suppose nobody was terribly interested in my opinion because I've complained about this on several occasions. So we have the possibly forgotten Dance of Sacrifice, we have, let's see, we have Venerer, we have Goonhilder, Oh yes, the Nameless Red-Haired Knight. According to Windbloom Ode, he did this whole thing where he turned his back on the newborn god following Decarabian's fall. So the newborn god here is, of course, Venti. And he went to work in the shadows for the betterment of Mondstadt. What exactly this entails is unknown, but my best guess is they were probably trying to make parallels to Diluc because there's lots of... Oh, that's a nice hat. Because there's lots of darkness and dawn stuff just going on with the Ragaminders in general. Let's see, is there anything else to cover? I don't believe there's anything else to cover. Give me 1 moment to simply double check that. We have, oh yes, okay, more of the information on Andrius comes from the Andrius weapon mat drops in addition to his ascension materials, the fangs and stuff. His ascension materials talk about how he thought he was not fit to be a ruler, because the Archon, because he didn't love humans, and his like green one talks about the Wanderers and Orphans thing. But it's like the ring, the spirit log at the tail that talk about how he gave up his power and died and etc, etc, etc. Returned to the land, whatever you want to call it, which potentially helped Venti with making Mondstadt a livable place. Not entirely clear, but he let his power flow into the land, or some other fancy wording. I do believe that is everything. Oh, yes, and then according to History of Kings and Clans Prologue, which is a book that's very interesting, but we don't have enough of, we also know that we have, let's see, that Decarabian and Andrius were also called the Kings of Ice and Frost. Whether or not this indicates that Decarabian had cryo powers in addition to Anemo powers is hotly debated. Personally, given that we have nothing that would indicate he did, my humble opinion is that he probably only had Anemo powers, and that the Ice and Frost was ascribed to him later as a result of the whole Andrius Blizzards thing, but whatever. He's also called the Stormlord of the Tower. Again, god of way too many names. So that should be basically all the lore, or at least most of the critical lore, covering the Archon War in Mondstadt, or at least the end of the Archon War in Mondstadt. On the next episode, we're going to talk about the Oh, a chest. Oh. Okay, anyways, on the next episode, we're going to talk about the aristocracy in Mondstadt. More specifically, we're going to talk about... let's see. I suppose we'll talk about the rise of the aristocracy in general, followed by... yeah, we'll talk about the rise of the aristocracy in general, and then get into a few more specific videos, because there's a lot of Mondstadt aristocracy lore related to a very great many minor characters. Alright, thanks for watching. This is definitely the end of the video now, I promise. Have a nice day. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and are interested in seeing future videos. Thanks!